Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. My distinguished scholars, my elders, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, we must apologize that you might feel a little cramped. We've had an overwhelming response. So for the ladies, once the chairs are filled, the overflow is in the main hall in the ladies area. There will also be a mic there so that you will be able to ask your questions, and inshallah you'll be as productive as if you were sitting into this main hall. Gents, once, and I know the seats are already filled, so you can fill up the seniors area. You can take the seats here in the front, towards the back, or even in the Baytul Salah area, inshallah. We are still waiting for Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi. He is on his way, but we will commence the proceedings because his presentation is a little down the line for it, so inshallah by then he would have arrived. He's arrived in from Canada early this morning, so you'll have to excuse his jet lag. But Maulana has been very supportive of this course, so have the scholars, and this is an opportunity for us to present the new rulings around Khums. There is also a ticker tape that will come about where we will be taking questions online. So if you don't want to ask the question, you can post it. I'll be seeing it through, and inshallah when we come to the Q&A, we will be able to answer, we will try at least to answer all those questions as we can. The format for today is fairly straightforward. We will have three speakers before Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi will address and talk specifically around the changes that we have had. But before we go into any one of those and before presenting our opening remarks, let us open today's seminar and proceedings with some verses from the Holy Quran. Can I request upon Hussein Ballu to come forward and recite a few verses? Can we welcome him with a loud salawat, please?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبح اسم ربك الأعلى الذي خلق فسوى والذي قدر فهدى والذي أخرج المرعى فجعله غثاء أحوى سنقرئك فلا تنسى إلا ما شاء الله إنه يعلم الجهر وما يخفى ونيسرك لليسرى فذكر إن نفعت الذكرى سيذكر من يغشى ويتجنبها الأشقى الذي يصلى النار الكبرى ثم لا يموت فيها ولا يحيا قد أفلح من تزكى وذكر اسم ربه فصلى بل تؤثرون الحياة الدنيا والآخرة خير وأبقى إن هذا لفي الصحف الأولى صحف إبراهيم وموسى صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Ahsan Hussein. Traditionally people say it's the last weekend before Ramadan, so it's time for people enjoying their last feasts before Ramadan begins. And as it is the month of spirituality, we said, well, how best can we commence this month with even more spirituality, in the sense of getting ourselves acquainted with the latest of what is going on in the realms of fiqh, and in this time it so happens to be Khums. So Sheikh Muhammad Al Ismail will be giving us his first presentation on saving for a rainy day and this seminar in context. So Sheikh Muhammad Ali is originally from Peterborough. He graduated in law and then went to Qum, Iran, where he studied Hausa for 10 years. He specializes in Quran and Hadith studies and graduated from the Hawza in 2007. Thereafter, he pursued PGC in education at the University of Portsmouth. Sheikh Muhammad Ali then moved to Damascus in Syria, where for 2 years he taught and trained aspiring muballighs at the Islamic Institute for Postgraduate Studies. He then resettled back in the UK in 2010 and is currently now our deputy head of the Islamic Education Department at the World Federation. He is also the director of research and publication and a senior lecturer and editor at the Islamic College in London. For the past 2 decades, Sheikh Muhammad Ali has been lecturing and conducting courses in Islamic centers around the world. His most recent publication is the Islamic Laws, the annotated translation of Tawzi'ul Masail of Sayyid Ali al-Sistani. So can we please welcome Sheikh Muhammad Ali with a loud salawat.
الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين. Respected scholars, my elders, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My talk today will be in 2 parts. In the first part, I will say a few words about the whole idea of saving for a rainy day. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So my talk today will be in 2 parts. In the first part, I will say a few words about saving for a rainy day. And usually when people talk about saving for a rainy day, they talk about the fact that they need to prepare and make provisions for a time when things are difficult or they are in financial trouble. But I would like to look at it in terms of how Khums enables us to save for a rainy day at a spiritual level. And the fact that Khums has both a material and a spiritual benefit for us as individuals and us as a community. And then in the second part of my talk, I'll provide a brief background to this seminar. And I'll place it in the context of the Khums Guidance Project. This is a project that we at the Islamic Education Department of the World Federation have been involved in over the past few months, together with scholars and practitioners. Now, with regard to this very first part of my talk, saving for a rainy day, when we look at the Quran, we find that it presents a very distinct perspective on the concept of giving in the way of Allah. So for example, in Surah Sabah, verse number 39, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, قُلْ إِنَّ رَبِّي يَبْسُطُ الرِّزْقَ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِهِ وَيَقْدِرُ لَهُ. Say, O Prophet, indeed my Lord expands the provision for whomsoever of his servants that he wishes, and he tightens it. وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَهُوَ يُخْلِفُهُ وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. And he will replace whatever you may give in his way, and he is the best of providers. Now we see at the beginning of this verse, the word Rabbi is used. Rabbi means my Lord, my sustainer, my nourisher, the one who does my tarbiyah. It means the one who develops me, who looks after me and enhances me. So now, when we look at it in this way, the question arises, well, how does Allah do our tarbiyah? How does He look after us and sustain us and enhance and develop us? Well, He does this in many ways. One of them is by means of testing us through financially related matters and the provisions that He has given us. So, in this verse, we see that Allah expands our provision and He tightens it. Indeed, He is the ultimate provider of everything that we have. But while He does this, He's also testing us. He's looking to see, are we still faithful to Him? Are we still trusting in Him? Are we still practicing those duties that are on our shoulders? So how are we when our situation is tight? How are we when our situation is normal? And how are we when things are better than normal? Does our faith in Him, does our trust in Him, does the performance of our duties towards Him rise and dip, just like the rising and dipping of our financial charts? So now, let's have a look at the second part of this verse in a little bit more detail. We see that in this process of helping us to develop and to rise spiritually, Allah has presented us with an incredible offer. He says, وَمَا أَنفَقْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَهُوَ يُخْلِفُهُ وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. And He will replace whatever you give in His way, and He is the best of providers. This incredible offer is because of three reasons. First of all, because of the fact that everyone is guaranteed to win. Look at this verse. When Allah says that He will replace whatever we give, it means it's a win-win situation, both for the recipient of our giving. So the recipient may be the less fortunate in society, it may be Islamic institutions, it may be Islamic projects. Certainly the recipient benefits, but also the giver benefits as well. And this is guaranteed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Himself. فَهُوَ يُخْلِفُ. It is He who replaces it. It is He who recompenses us for our giving. No other investment is like this, where both sides are guaranteed to be in a win-win situation. Now, this replacement and this recompense that we gain from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we give in His way, it could be in this world, it could be in the next world, it could be in the form of repelling some misfortune from us. It could be something that benefits our children and our future generations. It could be a combination of all of these things. But look how Allah states it in this verse. He leaves it general, that He will replace for us our giving. He will recompense us. So, look at the last part of this verse. وَهُوَ خَيْرُ الرَّازِقِينَ. Because He is the best of providers, it means that He knows the best way to recompense our giving. Because He knows our needs better than we know our needs. And therefore, He will meet those needs of ours in the best possible way. But also, we see here that it is an incredible offer because there are potentially unlimited rewards. Now, when we look at this, it's because of the fact that who is the other side of the transaction? It is none other than Al-Ghaniyul Mutlaq, the absolute, all-sufficient being. And therefore, when we come across other investment opportunities, no matter how good they might be, no matter how good they might advertise them to be, there will always be limitations, but not in this transaction. There are no limitations because the other side is Al-Ghaniyul Mutlaq. And finally, it is an incredible offer because there's no minimum, no maximum amount that we need to invest. Because this investment, Allah does not see the amount as being important per se at all. He's not looking at the amount. What's important for Allah is that we perform our duties. The infaq is what is important in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because then we are just giving what He had given us to hold on trust in the first place. So now, of course, this doesn't just apply to financial giving, but all types of blessings that we have. Our finances, our energy, our time, it could be our knowledge, the fruits of our experience. And so giving in the way of Allah, of which Khums is a prime example, is both a spiritual and a material investment. And this is summarized beautifully by none other than Imam Ali ibn Musa Rida salawatullah wa salamu alayhi. In this tradition, he tells us that Khums truly is an investment, both spiritual and material. فَإِنَّ إِخْرَاجَهُ مِفْتَاحُ رِزْقِكُمْ. He says that paying Khums is a key for your provision. So this is the material benefit of paying our Khums. But then the Imam points to the spiritual benefits as well. He goes on to say, وَتَمْحِيصُ ذُنُوبِكُمْ. It is a purification for your sins. وَمَا تُمَهِّدُونَ لِأَنفُسِكُمْ لِيَوْمِ فَاقَتِكُمْ. And it is something that you prepare for yourselves for the day of your poverty, for the day of judgment. Therefore, Khums really is a saving for a rainy day, the day that we will be in need the most. And Khums truly is an investment, both spiritual and material, for us as individuals and us as a community. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now, as a background to this seminar and to place it in the context of the Khums Guidance Project, this seminar is actually part of a 4-stage process. In the first stage, which was all about the new ruling, and I say new in this way because it's now known as the new ruling, but actually it is the most significant part of this whole discussion came about as an additional footnote to an existing ruling, ruling number 1231 of Minhajus Salihin, which is the more detailed work on Islamic law of His Eminence Ayatollah Sayyid Ali al-Husseini as-Sistani. So this footnote put forward a new, if you like, scenario with regard to paying Khums. Now, the Islamic Education Department of the World Federation studied this new ruling, and also some answers that were asked by Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi to the office of His Eminence. So then we studied all of this together, and we asked some more detailed questions as well about this change in the ruling. And then we translated all of this material in English in preparation for stage 2. Stage 2 was a meeting that was convened in March of this year. And in order to do things really properly and thoroughly, we put together a team of 9 people. These 9 people comprise of scholars and practitioners. When I say practitioners, I mean accountants and lawyers who are very experienced in Khums related matters in the community. The aim of the meeting was twofold. First of all, to get a thorough understanding of the change in the ruling, And secondly, to see how the new ruling applies in practice. How will Khums now be calculated in terms of the most commonly encountered scenarios that members of our community face on a day-to-day basis? So then the practitioners produced a number of very useful scenarios, and we all worked on these scenarios, applying the ruling to them over the course of a full day. At the end of that meeting, we were left with some questions, which took us to stage 3. In stage 3, we translated those questions that we had at the end of stage 2 into Arabic. We sent them off to His Eminence's office, and then when we got the answers back, we translated them into English. We discussed them once again in preparation for this seminar. So this seminar, you'll see that inshallah later on, Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi will explain the changes in the ruling and how it affects the calculation of Khums. But still, as you can see, we would like to provide the guidance in 2 formats, not just this seminar. Our job will still not be done at the end of today, because we want to also produce a booklet which will contain all the various aspects of the changes in the ruling. So, as a final word, this whole project has been a first for us in terms of working in this way, getting the scholars and the practitioners and experts in the field together and going through those stages. But very importantly, the key source of guidance for us has always been and always will be the office of His Eminence. From start to finish, we were in touch with the office. We were asking questions from the office and getting clarifications from them. And we believe that this model of bringing together scholars who know the Sharia and the practitioners who are experts in the field, working together, but under the guidance of our great Maraji, is the right way to go about providing guidance to the community on such important matters. Let's pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He blesses us with the tawfiq to perform our duties as His true ibad. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much, Sheikh Muhammad Ali Ismail, to set the context in which we have all gathered here. And it is fascinating, considering it's the weekend before Ramadan, how, as you say, Allah will test us through various means. One of them being financial, and the paying of Khums being both physical and a spiritual giving in its own right, which adds to our spirituality and inshallah the ability to give, to support those in the most difficult circumstances. Effectively, this is not a giving but more of an investment which has what is commonly known in business. The ROI is not 5-10%, but it is multiple fold that one cannot count, because we are doing it in the name of Allah, as you say, Al-Ghani. So setting the context, you therefore then have to ask the question, why pay Khums? And why is it obligatory? So the next speaker who will talk about why is Khums obligatory is not somebody that is unfamiliar to territories of Hujjat at all. Sheikh Muhammad Al-Hilli holds a master's degree in pharmacy from the University of London and an MA in Islamic Studies from Middlesex University here in the UK. He has studied in the Hausa both in London and Najaf for many years, and he is also now a teacher of Hausa studies at the Islamic College in London. Sheikh Muhammad Al-Hilli is also the author of 3 magnificent books, and if you haven't read them, I would highly encourage you to do so. One is on the Muharram sermons, one is Arba'in, the walk, and his latest book, The Baqi Cemetery, Past, Present and Future. Sheikh Muhammad Al-Hilli has a passion for holy sites in the Islamic world. After years of visiting and guiding people through the deep-rooted history of Mecca, Medina, Iraq, Iran, and even some African places. And all that meticulous research has led to one of his books on Baqi. He is now heading the innovative Islamic education department at Noor Trust here in the UK and regularly conducts sought-after Quranic commentary programs, marriage courses, as well as practical workshops on social, historic, moral and jurisprudential area of the relevance to Muslims in the West. Sheikh Muhammad Al-Hilli's commitment to this project is actually second to none. He is actually meant to be at a gala dinner where he heads one of the departments at Noor Trust, but he has actually put that on hold to be here with us. Now that is not only showing his commitment to this community, but a commitment to ensure, as his biography says, that he wants to ensure that we live a life that is relevant to Muslims in the West. Without any further ado, can we please invite Sheikh Muhammad Al-Hilli with a loud salawat.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى اللهم وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Respected scholars, sisters and brothers, Salamun alaykum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. When the word Khums is mentioned, what comes to your mind? It's a very interesting thought maybe to ponder. There's sometimes a sense of fear of the unknown. Sometimes there is apprehension regarding knowing what to do. And sometimes there are many doubts or questions that may arise. I wanted to highlight an interesting verse in the Quran to start this very brief discussion, which is related to the Battle of Tabuk. It's in chapter 9, Surah Tawbah, verse 39. We have the Holy Prophet of Islam, Rasul al-A'zam Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, gathering the Muslims towards fighting the Romans. Here we have the Muslims who have just experienced the conquest of Mecca without shedding of any blood. They were in a very good state, 9 years after Hijrah. They're all ready, and the Prophet of Islam says there's a huge army in an area known as Tabuk, which is included in the modern day Hijaz, Saudi, and we have to fight them. They're huge in number, it's hot, but let's go. What happened was that these Muslims, supposedly supporting Rasulullah, ended up feeling lethargic, ended up giving excuses, ended up saying, we're not up to it. Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala revealed the verse to say that, what is wrong with you? You claim to have faith and the following of the Prophet of Islam. When push comes to shove though, you're a bit weak in your determination. Ya أيها الذين آمنوا ما لكم إذا قيل لكم انفروا في سبيل الله اثقلتم إلى الأرض. Why is it that when Allah says to you, come on, rise, there's a beautiful expression in the Quran, and that is you feel heavy towards the earth. And this has also a mystical or a kind of a spiritual element to it. That means you become too lazy, you want to adhere to dunya, and you don't want to think about the akhirah. أَرَضِيتُمْ بِالْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا مِنَ الْآخِرَةِ. Are you placing your dunya before your akhirah? Let me tell you something. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَمَا مَتَاعُ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا فِي الْآخِرَةِ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. Don't compare the two. Don't put yourself in that position to say, you know what, I'd prefer my dunya for the moment. Yes. Because the comparison is very, very weak. It's very small compared to the hereafter. Now when we talk about Khums, There is that fear that is in the heart of people, and sometimes there is that resistance that, I have gathered my wealth all this time. Why should I give it? What is the reason? Or is it wajib? And so on and so forth. Now, remember that khums is a subject, like many others in Islamic jurisprudence, that's linked, that's intertwined. You can't separate it, for example, from salah and wudu and hajj. Yes, you all know that even fasting, because narrations, we spoke about it yesterday in Salatul Jum'ah, narrations tell us that before the Holy 8th Imam in the final Jum'ah of the day of the month of Sha'ban says, before you come to the month of Ramadan, make sure you give haqqullah. Make sure you sort it out. Before you enter into this magnificent feast that you're supposed to be gaining much from, enter with a purified body and soul. Which means that you have to give the right of the Almighty as well as the haqqun nas as well. Similarly, when it comes to the clothing that we wear, when it comes to salah, if khums deliberately has not been paid, and an individual is arrogant to say, I don't want to pay khums, wears and buys clothing with that money, the salah is batil. So we have a very important element of khums associated with there, all the aspects of devotion and elements of Islamic law. Now, the question, of course, that was posed and very beautifully presented by Samahat Sheikh Muhammad Ali is regarding the emphasis that this set of instructions is not only for this world. We've got to keep that in the back of our minds, because shaitan becomes very strong when money is involved. When you have to pay something, shaitan holds on and says, hold on. Is there a chance you can call Maulana on WhatsApp and ask for a loophole? We've had many of these, yes, where people are saying, I don't want to pay that much. Is there a way that I can get out of it? اثاقلتم إلى الأرض. I don't want to pay. Can I? So, in that respect, there is an interesting narration from one of the Imams, min ahaduhum, that says, إني لآخذ من أحدكم الدرهم. Imam says, I'm going to take from you 1 dirham. وإني لمن أكثر أهل المدينة مالا. I could be the wealthiest person on Medina, the Imam says. ما أريد بذلك إلا أن تطهروا. I don't want anything by taking this khums from you except your purification. Except for you to be better. Yes? And that's why one of our living maraji', may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant long life to all our maraji', Ayatollah Sayyid Sa'id al-Hakim, in his minhaj, he says it is obligatory upon mu'mineen, may Allah empower them to pay attention to perform this haqq, so they are not placed amongst the unjust by not doing so. Since the 6th holy Imam, Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, says famously, إِنَّ أَشَدَّ مَا فِيهِ النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. The worst position that on the day of judgment for some people, إِذَا قَامَ صَاحِبُ الْخُمْسِ, someone who's entitled to khums rises and starts saying, فَقَالَ يَا رَبِّي خُمْسِي. This khums was supposed to come to me, but this person didn't pay it, so it didn't. So they will complain. And the 6th holy Imam says that's a very difficult position for people to take. Now, I want to just briefly touch on the verse and one hadith regarding why khums is wajib. However, I would like to say one thing at the beginning. If I was to stand here and talk about why salah is wajib, how would you feel? Say, it's a foregone conclusion. Why are you telling me that salah is wajib? Why are you telling me that fasting is wajib? Do you find ulama giving lectures or speaking before the month of Ramadan? Oh believers, make sure you fast. They talk about the spiritual dimensions, they speak about the month of Ramadan, how do you benefit Quran, etc., right? So khums, it is indeed one of the furu' ad-din, and it is wajib and it is established. Now, of course, these questions that arise, no problem, we discuss them academically or intellectually or with evidence from the Quran and the Sunnah. But one thing we need to appreciate, and that is this: if other schools of thought say something is not wajib, that is nothing to do with you and I. Don't come to me and say, but our brothers from other schools say it's not wajib, so why are we doing it? We have Ali Muhammad. And we are proud of it. let us not be of those who are weak just because a school of thought or a group of people from within our school of thought raise an objection. All of a sudden we have to worry. Oh, 1400 years, ulama, ai the Prophet of Islam, Quran, let's put a question mark. Yes. No, we are not shunning away from it, but just an introduction to realize that we are empowered by the Ahl al-Bayt alayhim as-salam. We have our fiqh, we have our maraji' who've clearly set down the rules and instructions for us. But it's sometimes beneficial to have an idea as to why, for example, this is present and how does it work. So, of course, the important verse that you'll hear reference to in many particular presentations with regards to Khums is the one in Surah Al-Anfal, verse number 41 in chapter 8, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِلرَّسُولِ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ إِن كُنتُمْ آمَنْتُم بِاللَّهِ. But know, whatever thing you acquire, for some reason this is not showing the whole thing, a fifth of it is for Allah and the Apostle, for the relatives and the orphans, and then the division is presented. Now, obviously, the major area of discussion, which is beyond the scope of this particular seminar, because we're here to improve our understanding of some of the pertinent issues related to Khums and the rulings to do with Khums. But just for your information, the word ghanimtum makes a huge difference here between the school of Ahl al-Bayt and our brothers from the other schools, because they believe that the word ghanima or ghanimtum is very much limited to booties and spoils of war. The problem with that is, of course, you find in Arab texts, lexicographers, others, for example, Lisan al-Arab, he says, Al-ghanam al-fawzu bil-shay'i min ghayri mashaqqa. That means, ghanam means something that you acquire without hardship. Yes? And so you recognize that ulama of other schools have actually verified this as well. You have Allama Qurtubi, you have Fakhruddin al-Razi, who've all said in their tafsir that the word ghanima or ghanam means acquiring, gaining, yes, and it's not limited to spoils of war. But of course the objection that they present is this verse is found within the context, within a number of verses which talk about the battle of Badr and the spoils of war after Badr. So surely it only applies, the fifth only applies of anything you gain after a battle. We reply, that is not how we understand the Quran. The Quran may speak about something in one particular context, which is to talk about the cause of revelation, but the cause of revelation is not confined to that event, because it's a constitution for life. And we have many instances in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals a certain verse due to a particular reason, but there are ahkam derived from it, as well as the fact, of course, that we have narrations that cannot be separated from the Holy Quran, and they elaborate exactly what the word ghanima is. So in the school of Ahl al-Bayt, this is understood to be what? 7 areas that Khums is wajib upon, and most of us are concerned only with number 1, and that is the profit or the surplus of the income, 20% of it that is calculated. Now, the other final point before we look at the conclusion is the example of a narration that is from the 9th Holy Imam, Imam Muhammad al-Jawad, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. This is found in Wasa'il al-Shia. The reference is cut out, but there was a question posed to him. And there are, if you look at Wasa'il al-Shia, tens of ahadith affirming that Khums applies on the surplus of the income. This is one of them, where there are a person asking, says, please advise us concerning the Khums for that which is excess from all the person spends, from either small amount or great amount. And the Imam replied, yes, Khums is obligatory after the expenses have been taken care of. So this is for us to realize. The other point with regards to why Khums is wajib is the fact that some of our maraji' have said there is ijma' amongst our ashab, meaning our ulama, scholars of the past, contemporary scholars, with regards to the fact that it's obligatory. Yes, and when the ulama have this ijma' consensus, that is sufficient for us. So for example, Ayatollah Khouy rahmatullahi alayh says, al-Dahir what is apparent is that all the ashab اتفاقهم قديما وحديثا على الوجوب, that those of the past and those who are current have all agreed that it's obligatory. Khums is wajib. Yes, it's not a matter where our great scholars or maraja, those who are established, certainly have disputed or have not come to a consensus to. So on that basis, just for us to have an understanding of the background of why Khums is obligatory, and I leave you with this story because perhaps it's the only thing that will be remembered when I finish. And that is that it's from one of Maraja or Mujtahids rather, who mentioned that one day there was one of the mu'mineen who came to him. MashaAllah, he was a wealthy man who had a very successful business, and he came to him and said to him, Maulana, I have never paid Khums. Where do I start? Perhaps it's a question that you will ask today. Yes, I've never paid Khums. There's no problem asking these questions. Yes, it's always an opportunity to start. It's better to start than never. So he said, where do I start? Marja said to him, start straight away. We'll help you calculate. He said, okay, let's calculate. So he went to see this Marja in Iraq. They sat down with him. They calculated, and it turned out it was several $1 million he had to pay. Yes. So he said to the Marja, can I think about it? Because this is a lot of money. Yes. Marja said, don't think about it, because shaitan will play. And they said, no, just give me a day. I need to think about this, several million. So he went to his hotel. Next day he sent someone to the Marja's office. He said, excuse me, it's too much for me. I'm not giving. Yes. I'm not in a position to give that much. Yes. Marja even sent him a message and said, look, there is a way for you to pay gradually, or over installments, so we can, if it's too much for you to do so now. He says, no, I'm not paying. He left. He went back to his country. I'm not telling you which country it is, but he went back to country. The Marja heard, the people in the office heard, that as soon as he landed, he was arrested by the authorities for tax evasion and fraud and so many things. And interestingly, the Marja said, subhanallah, if he had paid his due, maybe Allah would have protected him. Not if he had done wrong, yes, but maybe he was framed somehow. Yes. So don't forget, whatever you give or take part will definitely, as the Shaykh mentioned, will be your investment for akhirah. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Samtun, Sheikhna, and I think it's an apt message of that we, if nothing else, that we need to stand tall in our faith, in our belief, and in our tenets as Shia Ithnashri and the followers of the Ahlul Bayt. I think that is one of the key messages that we need to take from this, in addition to the obligation that we have, just like the obligation of fasting and praying. So, Sheikhna, thank you very much. Having looked at the context of where this comes from, having reaffirmed our view as this is something that is part and parcel of our tenets of our faith, so then what happens? The millions of dollars that are paid. In one case, they decided not to pay, and they had to bear the consequences of that. But Alhamdulillah, a lot of the community do pay. Sheikh Ali Abbas Malik was brought up and raised here in the UK. He graduated in law. Seems to be a theme with his scholars in law, but we'll see where that takes us. In 2005. In 2009, Sheikh Ali emigrated to the holy city of Najaf to start his Hausa studies and returned back in 2018. Sheikh Ali Abbas has studied Bayt al-Kharij under various mujtahideen in Najaf and continues his studies remotely while now serving the Shia community in High Wycombe. He was instrumental in the translation of the changes of Khums from Arabic to English, and when we had the internal scholar and practitioners meeting, some very complex issues were raised. He was able to translate them into Arabic and then go get them resolved in Najaf itself. His bio might be small, but he is a phenomenal scholar who has recently returned back to serve his community back in the UK. I know scholars don't like to be inferred from their family, but most of you may not know him, or some of you may do know him, but I'm pretty certain everybody knows his father. He is one of the sons of Maulana Zafar Abbas Sahib, who is an eminent scholar for those who know him here at Hujjat, and is highly respected, both Maulana Sahib and Sheikh Ali Abbas as well. Can you please welcome him with a loud salawat?
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد. Brothers and sisters and elders and scholars, businessmen, employees, self-employed people of various fields, doctors, accountants, and mailmen, and bakers, and lawyers, and paralegals, housemakers, house builders, and I don't know, any other that I've left out. My greetings to all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi. Now we've gathered here in this unique function, in this unique gathering, to discuss a very vital topic. It is amongst the wajibat. It is from the daruriyat of our madhab. To deny Khums is to deny the Quran, to deny the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salatu wassalam. And we have to understand and appreciate the obligation of Khums under the guidance of our maraja, our scholars, and how they have brought this wajib ibadat to us so that we can become on the day of judgment mabri al-dhimma, and we can stand before God without any khums left on our shoulders that is due. As Samahat Shaykh has mentioned, that it will be a hard day on the day of judgment when the person who was entitled to our khums, that faqir sayyid for instance, he will stand up and say khumsi, and we are the ones who have withheld that fund, that wealth, that rizq that Allah has bestowed upon us to provide for those who are less fortunate than us, and for other things inshallah that I'll discuss in the course of the next 14 minutes or so. So without further ado, the question that has been posed to me for me to discuss for this short speech is that what happens to my khums once I have paid it? As Janab Sheikh Muhammad Ali Ismail has mentioned already, inshallah we'll see it on the day of judgment. It's an investment for that rainy day, the Yawm al-Faqa, Yawm al-Qiyamah, and inshallah we will be replenished with everything that we have given in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there are certain laws that pertain to how we distribute khums, how we pay the khums. But there's one issue that I wish to tackle at the very beginning, and that is that this question isn't very accurate. That is it really my khums? Can we call it my khums, that 20% of my surplus income that I've given away? Do I have a right to it that I can call it my khums? The answer is no. The scholars have mentioned that as soon as we receive an income, khums is applicable on it. But what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has done in His grace and through His mercy over the mu'mineen is that He has allowed the mu'mineen to spend from it, take a year, spend from it for His own expenses, for the expenses of his family, and then whatever is left, then khums will be then applicable on that amount. So rather than it being comparable to the savings tax, it would have been similar to an income tax. But this is a rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and an alleviation of a more harder and more difficult law for us, that having to pay 20% right at the start. And as the Shaykh have mentioned, that this khums that we spend, it is an act of ibadah. You have to understand this act, we have to give it with niyyah, with the niyyah of qurbatan ilallah. It is not simply a tax. It is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned throughout the Quran as infaq. One of the traits of the muttaqeen is وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. What we have given to them as rizq, they spend. And this is a part and parcel of that sacrifice and the generosity that we inshallah have learned through the Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wassalam. So khums is obligatory on every income on receipt. However, that has been abrogated from the very beginning, and God has allowed the believers to make use of it and to pay khums on whatever is left at the end of the year, as we know the laws of khums to be. And as we know, the distribution of khums goes to two parts, Sahmul Sada and Sahmul Imam alayhi salam. In regards to the Sahmul Sada, where did that portion go to? As we saw in the verse of the Holy Quran, we see that there are three categories that go to the Sahm Sada. The first category are the poor, the impoverished, those who are in difficult financial times. And what does it mean? What is the standard of poverty that needs to be applied? The Maraji' say that those who do not have sufficient income to cover their yearly expenses for themselves and those who they have to provide for, such as their families. Okay, so if a person's income is let's say £10,000, but he needs £15,000, he needs £12,000 for him to adequately provide for his family and for himself, then he will be regarded as somebody who is under that poverty line, and he will be a mustahiq. Of course, he has to be a sayyid from the line of the Banu Hashim through the father. The second category are the orphans from the Banu Hashim, and the Maraji' say that they, as an obligatory precaution, should be also poor. They should be below the poverty line, they should be in need for funds. And then the third category, Ibn Sabil, this is the person who is poor where they are. They may be rich, they may be millionaires where they are, where they live, but they are stranded, they need wealth, they need some money, some help, financial support to get to where they're going towards. And the Maraji', they cap the level of support that we can give them to what is sufficient for them. So if a person requires another, let's say £2,000 for his yearly income, then that is all that he will be provided for from Sahm Sada. And in regards to Sahm Sada, as I mentioned, only in the amount that will fulfill their yearly needs. And the obligatory precaution, according to most Maraja', is that it shouldn't be given to those who will spend it on forbidden things, or to those who drink alcohol, who do not pray. And there are other conditions as well, such as it cannot be given to somebody upon whom it is you're obligated to provide for. If it is already in your obligation for you to provide for that person, then you can't pay Sahm Sada to him. And the thing about Sahm Sada, according to the fatwa of His Eminence Samahat Sayyid Sistani, is that we don't need an ijazah, we don't need to give it to his office. We can find those poor people, find the poor Sadat, and provide them the funds ourselves directly. But then we get to Sahm al-Imam alayhi salam. It's important to understand that this is the haqq of the Imam, and let it settle in that when we withdraw our Sahm al-Imam, or when we misspend it or misdispose of it, then we are misdisposing and taking the haqq of our Imam, our awaited Imam. May Allah hasten his reappearance. This must be distributed to the beneficiaries by referring to the maraji', either by handing it to him or to his wakil, one of his wukala, one of his representatives, or by taking his permission. If we have a project that's in front of us, there's an organization that needs some funding, or there is a poor mu'min who needs our help, who's not covered by Sahm al-Sada because, for example, he's not a Sayyid, then we can take permission from him and he may give an ijazah that you can spend it for that cause. Or we can give it to a person or an organization which already has an ijazah from the marja'. So this is the way that it has to be distributed, both the portions of the Sahm al-Sada and Sahm al-Imam. So 10% of that will go to the Sadat and 10% will go to the Imam. In regards to the crux of the question, where does our money go to? In the course of the next few minutes, it's very difficult for me to sort of put it all together and deliver it to you. But if you ask, if you inquire, you will get the answers. What we shouldn't do is listen to the waswasa of the shayateen that are around us, that cause confusion, that cause doubts, and have some trust in a system that the Imam al-Hujjah Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif has established for us. He is Hujjah over them and they are Hujjah over us, and there should be a level of trust there. There's a wide array of uses and tasarruf of this, of Sahm al-Imam. Generally is for the welfare and the well-being and the best interest of the believers, and to avert the dangers and things which are against the best interests of the mu'mineen. This is what Khums Sahm al-Imam is used for. And just as an example, what I've seen and what I've experienced in Iraq when I was there, and what we can see in other parts of the world, Sahm al-Imam alayhi salam is used for the relief for the poor and the orphans. There's a huge amount of hundreds of thousands of dollars are going towards the impoverished Iraqis. And a good example of that, a good case study, is Al-Ain, an organization which is supervised by Samahat Sayyid Sistani himself. And they are caring for around 60,000 orphans across Iraq, and they are doing a lot for them and the widows, and they are also supporting the victims of terrorism and including the refugees. And it's a lot of work that's being done. If we sort of close our eyes and just look at our mobile phone screens, what's coming in from WhatsApp and Facebook, and say, oh, this is wrong or that is wrong, when in the real world, when we go out and see, we will see the work that is done through our funds, through the Khums. It's not going into a black hole, it's not going into people's pockets who are earning from Khums more, if they're not worthy of that, they're not mustahiq of that. No, it is going to people who are truly deserving of it. A lot of work is being done, inshallah, as I'll explain. Of course, Iraq has been subjected to terrorism and Daesh, and that has caused a lot of poverty, a lot of harm, and many refugees have moved from the north to the south. It is Sahm al-Imam that was used in great abundance to care for them, to provide for them, to provide them shelter, to provide them jobs, to provide them schools. And then we move on to the maintaining of religious institutions and seminaries. The hawzat that are there in the Middle East and elsewhere, they are funded by Sahm al-Imam. This is very important and crucial for the continuation of the guidance of the mu'mineen and for the continuations of our leadership, our maraja'. Where do our maraja' come from? Where does our scholarly elite come from? They come from our seminaries. And then I mentioned this as well, that the publication and the propagation of the message of Islam through the printing of books, through putting things up on the internet and defending the truth from confusions, from misconceptions, and from attacks from the enemies. So that propagation, there's a huge amount of Sahm al-Imam which is going towards that. I've already mentioned the poor, but there is a special service that is there. When we go to Iraq, we go to Najaf and other cities, we see that hundreds of thousands of dollars is spent towards those people who need medical aid. A person might be well off, he might have a sufficient income, but that day when he realizes he needs an operation, he needs to buy expensive medical treatment, medicine, then he doesn't have enough money for that. There's no NHS there. If there is, it is a very deteriorated situation. And a person who may be very well off, he needs to pay millions for an operation. So these funds are then provided for them as well. And in Iraq, there is a open ijazah. This is something quite unique as well. There's an open ijazah for those Iraqis living in Iraq to use Sahm al-Imam according to the judgment wherever they see fit. Because Iraq is in a very difficult situation. Alhamdulillah, things have improved. But if you go back several years, we will find that there was poverty, there were victims of terrorism, there were refugees, there was even the roads and basic communities were in a very bad situation. And Samahat al-Sayyid, he gave an open ijazah to everybody, which he hasn't yet rescinded. The Maraja don't want the money for themselves. Just as A'imma alayhimu salatu wassalam, when they said Khums is wajib upon you, it is not for themselves, it's not for their pockets, it's for them, for the mu'mineen, so that their wealth can be purified through the paying of Khums. In the same way, the Maraja, when we send them Khums, when we send to their wukala the Khums, we are not doing ihsan on them. They are doing ihsan on us, that they are providing us a channel by which we can alleviate our responsibility of paying Khums. And in the UK, it's used in the building and the maintaining of our mosques and centers. It is used in the building and maintaining of our madrasas and institutions of religious education. And it is used in the publication of literature and the propagation of our faith. It is used for tabligh and the educating of believers about their faith and about their duties. And it is also used for various functions and events and organization to strengthen our madhab, to strengthen the mu'mineen, to provide them the education and the culture that they need to survive here in the West, to be able to abide by the laws of the Islam, to remain firm on their faith, on their creed, holding their head high. So this is the use of Sahm al-Imam in a nutshell. Much more can be said, but when we look at the books such as Minhaj al-Salihin, which is a more detailed risala of Samahat al-Sayyid al-Sistani, the Khums, he writes that it must be spent in a manner that one is confident that the awaited Imam, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif, is content with it. He is radhi with that. But the thing is that something for us to directly be concerned about? No, this is a duty of the Maraja or his network of wukala and his representatives. They will look into this for us. These are scholars, these are pious individuals. What is our duty? It is to ensure that it gets to the Maraja or the trusted wukala. This is our duty. At the end of the day, this is an ibadah. Just as Samahat Shaykh Al-Hilli has mentioned that, we're gathered here to talk about Khums, but we wouldn't imagine ourselves to having such a gathering for Salat, for Sawm. Inshallah, maybe we should have a gathering so that we can resolve issues about shukuk and shubahat in Salah, maybe other issues related to Sawm, so that we can educate ourselves and spread the knowledge. But at the end of the day, this is an ibadah. it must be accompanied with the requisite niyyah. And at the end of the day, we want to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without that sin on our shoulders, that we have taken the haqq of the 12th Imam, we have taken the haqq of the children of Sayyidah Zahra salamullah alayha. We mourn for her during the days of the Ayyam of Fatimiyya, and we mourn for her for the fact that she is al-maghsub haqqaha. But yet sometimes we also commit that sin. We take away the right of her children, whether it is the 12th Imam or whether it is the non-ma'sumin, the Sadat, the Banu Hashim who are there in front of us. So this is something that has a great importance in Islam. There is a huge emphasis throughout the Quran about financial responsibilities. Wherever salat is mentioned, zakat is also mentioned. The scholars say that the zakat is not the zakat al-istilahi that we use in fiqh. Zakat refers to the financial obligations by which we purify our wealth and thus purify ourselves. So it includes zakatul mal, it includes zakatul fitra, it includes khums. And it is a huge responsibility, and it's something very difficult. We may give some time during the day to pray the 17 raka'at that are obligatory upon our shoulders, but can we give 20% of our earnings, our surplus earnings? It is something more difficult. So I will end on this hadith. It is something difficult. The Aimma alayhimus salatu wassalam, they accepted that as difficult. As we see from this hadith from Imam Muhammad al-Baqir alayhi salam, that after explaining the obligation of khums and how it purifies the wealth, he says that this is from our messages that is very difficult. Sa'abun mustas'abun. It's extremely difficult. And لا يعمل به ولا يصبر عليه إلا ممتحن قلبه للإيمان. No one will act upon this. No one will give khums, and no one be steadfast upon it. He may give khums when he feels like it, but he may not do at other occasions. But those people will be steadfast and continuously be undertaking this obligation, whose hearts are tested to be with true faith. This is an alama, this is a sign of faith that we give khums. We give these financial obligations to the mustahiqeen. And another hadith that comes to mind from Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, mal'oonun mal'oonun man ittahama akhah. Accursed is he who does tuhma to his brother. Now what we are doing is not doing tuhma to merely our mu'min brothers. We're doing tuhma against the maraja, we're doing tuhma against the wukala of the maraja, against our esteemed scholars and our scholarship. We're doing tuhma against the hawza, and we should be extremely wary of this. This is the whisperings of shayateen, min al-insi wal jan, and we should be very careful about such accusations and such creation of confusion, because this khums, this institution of khums, is something that the Aimma gave so much emphasis on. There's no time to go through all the ahadith from the first Imam to the last Imam, but there is a power there. There is a power there that gives us independence. We are not subservient to any government. We are not subservient to any power, any authority. The only authority is our Imam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and khums enables that. It gives us that independence, and shayateen will try and stop that. And we must be firm on these ibadat, whether it is salah or saum or hajj or zakat or khums. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us that fortitude and that steadfastness and that sabr, so that we can undertake our obligations. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Ahsant, Sheikh Ali Abbas Malik. Interestingly, it's a paradox and an analysis whether it's khums is income tax or tax on savings. The reality is it is not tax at all, but an obligation and an investment. So it's more like an income investment as opposed to an income tax. Having said whether it's an investment or not, it is about understanding how do we calculate it. Now, we have got no better expert than a stalwart of our community, and what an honor it is to have Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi with us here at the Hujjat Islamic Center in London. Maulana needs very little introduction, as I'm sure each and everybody in this community knows him. However, it is important to recognize that Maulana also comes with his own credentials on such matters. He studied in the House Ilmiya in Khums for over a decade and undertook Bayt Khalid studies under the Grand Ayatollah Sheikh Wahid Khurasani, and also, interestingly enough, holds an MA in history from Simon Fraser University of Canada. Interestingly, he has been the resident alim of Toronto Jamaat for over 20 years. Maulana jokingly says, I'm the only one who survived Toronto for that long. But mashallah, they have been blessed to have had such an eminent scholar amongst them for over 2 decades. Right? Maulana, his expertise is in a number of fields, but Khums is one of them. He's written a book on this subject itself, first published in 1984. It has been revised 4 times, and his last publication was in 2014 on the same matter. It has been translated both in Italian and the Kosovo language. He has authored 16 other books and has written over 30 papers across various subject matters, from business ethics to marriage and morals in Islam, to the introduction of Islamic Sharia, which is also used as a text in India for some Hausa studies. So as we all know, he has been in Toronto for 25 years now, with our Jamaat for over 20 years, I think 23 odd years. Let us please welcome Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi to the podium, where he'll give us an update on the latest rulings.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة الدائمة الباقية على أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد, sisters and brothers in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. It's indeed a pleasure to be here. This is not the first time that I'm coming here, but especially for this seminar and the way it has been organized. Alhamdulillah, we had a very fruitful and beneficial beginning with the discourses of the mashayikh here. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increase the tawfiqat and give them more strength on talking about the issue of obligation, as well as the utilization of khums, how it's being done. What I'm going to do is basically summarize the basic rulings about khums before going towards the new ruling about mortgage. I know our organizations wouldn't be that happy, but I think the individuals were very happy with that new ruling. But you know, he is representing the organization here anyway, so, and they are the one who's organized it. This is where we see that our, madhab, our fiqh is dynamic, it moves. It's not staying there. You have marja who is there for a long time in the community, but it doesn't mean that, he's not going to change his opinions. If he comes to a point after his further studies, he is willing to change. And this is where we have to realize and appreciate this issue, that when the maraji at that level, are willing to change their opinions based on the dalil and the evidence that they see in front of themselves. So let me just, very quickly, this has been already, the ayat has been discussed. I'm actually going back to the slides I have from December 2018 seminar that I had in Toronto. So we'll just leave this, the importance of that even from the Sunni point of view. Now, when we talk about the issue of ghanimtum, as the Shaykh talked about it, there are 7 items, but the 2 are the most common one. One is the issue of the surplus or the profit, on which khums is wajib on an annual basis. And the second is basically, before I come to that, let me very quickly say that when we say it's annual taxation, let's use that term for the moment. You have the option to basically choose the Islamic Muslim calendar or the common calendar. Although, if you go with the common calendar, you are at the, you have more benefit because you get 10 days extra. So, in 3 years, you have 1 month extra there. And there is no Shari'i problem in doing that. You don't have to go with the Hijri calendar, you can go with the common calendar if you want. And the second most relevant item from the 7 items on which khums is wajib is the issue of legitimate wealth, which is mixed with illegitimate wealth, and where you are not able to handle that. There are actually 6 different scenarios that you have to follow. One of them would be that finally you end up paying khums from the entire wealth that you have, which is mixed up, in order to purify that. When we talk about surplus and profit of the income, basically we are talking about whatever you earn from business, wages, your shares in the market, dividend income, or any other means of earning which is recognized by the Sharia. Including when we talk about gifts and prizes and bonus. There's a slight difference between the opinion of the late Ayatollah Khoy on the issue of gifts and Ayatollah Sistani. Ayatollah Sistani says it is an item on which khums would be applicable. Even when we talk about sadaqah, those who get sadaqah, for example, if they have a surplus at the end of the year, even that will be liable for khums, as well as the recipients of zakat and khums. And any unexpected legacy. For example, you had a remote uncle who didn't have anyone in the family, and you end up inheriting that person. You didn't even expect that. That becomes one of those elements of if they leave something as a gift to you. Let me now move on from profit and surplus to very quickly to the issue of what are the things which are exempted from khums. Mahr, this is exempted provided it's paid by the husbands. That's a question mark itself, a problem. Inheritance, once you get the inheritance, there is no khums on it. Compensation or insurance payments that a person receives for personal injury, that's also exempted from khums. Financial loan, and all these things, when we say they are exempted from khums even if they stay with you for many, many years. There is no time limit for that exemption. When we talk about surplus and saving, what do we mean by that? Basically, we can quickly say that annual income minus expenditures of self and dependence. So whatever is left is the surplus and the saving on which khums will become wajib. When we talk about dependents, it doesn't have to be the dependents who are wajibun nafaqa for us, like the wife or the children and the parents. Even if you have a relative whom you are maintaining, supporting fully, or a friend or an orphan, not sponsoring the orphans, actually, maintaining the orphan under your own wings. All those expenses are all legitimate and considered to be expenditures of your dependents. Now, when we say after your expenses, the list can be very long, but I'll just very quickly go through this. You can just look at it on the screen. I don't want to mention in detail there. You know, everything that you can think of to be a normal expense that we go through, you know, it is allowable expense, and there is no issue of khums, including when we talk about insurance premium, membership dues that you pay to this to the Jamaat. Sometimes I get a question, Maulana, can I deduct the membership of the Jamaat from my khums? No, you can't do that. that is your own, you know, membership that you have to pay from your own pocket. Mandatory salary deductions for pension plans, which is run by the governments. In Canada, we have something known as CPP, Canadian Pension Plan. There must be something here also. So all those things which are deducted from you, or the taxes that you have to pay to the government, these are all allowable expenses. Now we are coming to the issue of when we talk about calculation of khums, I just wanted to clarify one thing, which was actually even a confusion in my mind itself. And that is that, you know, when we calculate the khums, let's say this year I sit down on the day when I do the calculation of khums, and I look at what is the saving that I have this year. I can compare with last year's saving after paying khums. And if my savings of this year is less than that amount, then I don't have to pay khums on it. And this is even if the khums free money that I had from last year has already been spent, it doesn't matter. You know, as an example, for example, day one I saved $100. So in first year, and so I paid 20 as khums, and I'm left with 80. Next year my saving is $60, but that $60 is less than the $80 that was, you know, khums free that I had, and so there will be no khums on that. Third year I have $70. $70 is more than 60. So I have to pay khums on the surplus there, which is $10. And so this is how you have one more benefit as far as, you know, calculation of khums is concerned. Now, one of the important issues that we have to realize, and this is where we'll come to the issue of the new fatwa also, saving for the future. When we talk about the allowable expenses in khums, it is important to know that, and I think we highlighted that in this slide that we had, that it should be the expense of that current year. It cannot be something that you are planning to do next year or 3 years from now. Otherwise, that is counted as part of your savings, and you will have to pay khums on it. And so that is something we have to keep in mind, that, you know, the allowable expenses are those that occur in the same khums year. Just ignore these, you know, RRSP and RESP. These are all Canadian terms. If you have your own, we call it registered retirement, you know, savings plan, which is not mandatory, but you are allowed to, you get tax rebate when you put some money away for your retirement. Now that money, it's not used this year. I am putting it there, and this will be only accessible to me later on at the time of retirement. Or for example, there are programs where you keep money for the higher education of your children. They are still young, but you are saving it. That saving, because it's not being used currently, it's going to be used in future, it is liable for khums. Exemption has been given for what is known as, I think in Gujarati you call it Dahej or Jahez in Urdu. When you accumulate, buy things, or even save money separately and dedicate it for the marriage of the daughter. This is a common fatwa of all the Maraje about, saving for the daughter's marriage in future. That will be exempted from khums. What about savings for the marriage of the son's son? Well, other Maraje don't give that privilege to the parents on this issue, but Ayatollah Sistani says that if taking care of the marriage expense of this son cannot be done from that 1 year's income, rather you also will be forced to save it for a few years before the marriage time comes. He has allowed that also when it comes to the marriage of the sons. Again, there is a kind of a conditional permission that he has given. Saving for the first residential home. Now I'll just explain the old mas'ala first before we come to the new mas'ala, just to understand the difference. For example, if you had asked Ayatollah Khoy or even Ayatollah Sistani on this issue, that if you save money for, let's say, 4 years in order to pay the down payment in the 5th year for your first residential home, the savings of the first 4 years, is it exempt from khums? The answer would be no, because it is not being used in that current years, 1, 2nd, 3rd, or 4th. It is going to be used in the 5th year. And so, for example, if I save in the year 2001 $5,000, but I'm not going to use it that year, then I have to pay khums, 1/5 of it. In year 2002, I save another 5,000 with the purpose of down payment in the future. Again, because I'm not using it that year, it is khumsable. 3rd year also the same thing. 4th year also the same thing, until I come to the 5th year. In the 5th year, I actually put in the 25,000 as down payment. In that, the 5,000 of that year, 2005, is exempted from khums because it is an expense of that current year, but not the savings that I had done year 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now we come to the, when it comes to the first residential home, before even the new ruling, there is a unique mas'ala of Ayatollah Sistani on this issue. And I would like you to pay attention. Don't take this as a blanket permission here. And I would like to make sure I'm fulfilling my responsibility in conveying the mas'ala the way it is. According to Ayatollah Sistani, he says, if not buying a house for your family is considered by your community, by your urf and society, as a sign of neglecting your duty towards your family, then saving gradually, for that purpose can be considered as allowable expense, even if you do that over 5 years. But the condition is that if not buying a house for your family is considered to be a sign of neglect by your urf. Urf means, the general understanding of your community or the society. And so in this case, for example, you know, there will be no khums in this case if the condition is applicable to that individual. But before you exercise that permission that Ayatul Sistani has given, maybe we should ask ourselves, is owning a residential home versus renting really considered in your society as a sign of neglecting your duty towards your family? So is it necessary to own a house or to provide the house on a rental basis? And this is where I'm saying urf becomes very important. So before we jump into that, we have to think about it. The second issue is that, you know, if you are able to provide shelter for your family, you know, on this issue of, you know, it's actually the same point, just want to emphasize that. And so look at this issue seriously before applying the ruling of Ayatul Sistani for the first time home buyers. The second point that we have to think about it is the issue that the house that you are buying should be within your means. And this will become very important also even when we talk about the new mortgage ruling of Ayatul Sistani. Again, who defines that you are buying a house which is within your means, within your standard? Again, there is no fixed criteria. Every society would be different from another. This is where you refer to urf. Urf means, you know, what is the common understanding of the society that you reside in. I'll give you an example. In Canada, for example, if you go for mortgage, and they will look at your finance, your ability to pay the mortgage, and they will only give you mortgage if you are able to put in 30 to 33%, you know, down payment. 30 to 32% of the mortgage payments from your 1 year's gross income. So they look at your income and then say how much mortgage you want and what will be the yearly mortgage that you will be ending up paying. If it is more than 30 to 33%, the bank will not consider you to be a good customer. And so I would look at that criteria as probably a way of understanding what the urf, you know, especially when it comes to financial institutions are concerned, that they want you at least to be able to pay 30 to 30% of your gross income towards the mortgage payments. And if it's less than that, then the amount of mortgage you are asking is beyond your means and beyond your standard of living. And what happens? If you end up buying a house which is beyond your means, then whatever you are paying beyond your means and your standards is eligible for khums. If it is within the means, then yes. But if it's beyond, then you'll have to pay khums on the extra amount that you are paying towards the mortgage payments. Now coming to the new ruling of the Grand Ayatul Sistani on this issue of mortgage, this is just history, we'll leave it on the side. Actually, this became more popular when one of his prominent students, who is a teacher of Dars Kharij himself in Khums, Sayyid Munir al-Khabbaz, he mentioned this for the first time in a talk which became popular in the YouTube in Arabic. And basically the understanding was that if you have a loan for a basic need, a residential home or a car or whatever, what is considered to be a basic need, and if your savings are less than your outstanding loan, then you are exempted from khums until your savings exceed the outstanding loan. Because you will be classified as a person who is in debt, and so you will be exempted from khums on that issue. And when we, received this from different, individuals, we decided to, contact Agha's office in Najaf to get more clarity on this issue, which ended up in the meeting that we had here in March. And this is the result that we are having this evening. To make it simple, the Grand Ayatollah Sistani is providing relief of Khums as far as the mortgage is concerned. On a side note, sometimes people say, Maharaja, they want Khums. Well, in Iraq, he says, don't come to me. Because of the dire situation of there, he says, if you find a mustahaq, use Sahm Imam yourself. Don't even bring it to me or my wakil. Here, he's basically saying that in this kind of situation, he's giving relief. So this, sometimes when we hear all this propaganda, this is where we have to think about these issues. What he's basically saying that once your savings become greater than your outstanding mortgage balance, it's only then that you will become liable for Khums, both for the saving at the end of the year as well as the remaining payments that you are making for the mortgage. So at the end, you will end up paying, but there is a relief. During the early years of your, buying the house, you will have some exemption there. Let us look at an example. This is a very simplistic example. It might not always, fit to probably not the majority, but this is just to give you an idea. If you buy a house, again the condition, which is within your means, and the value is, 300,000 pounds. I'll just say dollars is easier for me. I don't want to remember again that change it to pound. Okay, $300,000. And you get a mortgage of $200,000 with an amortization period of 25 years. And you pay $10,000 a year towards the loan. Now, just look at the scenario. For example, in the year first, you saved $40,000. $10,000 you paid towards the mortgage. When you look at your savings of that year, it is less than your outstanding balance. The initial outstanding balance is $200,000. Because it is less than your outstanding balance, the $40,000 that you have saved is exempted from Khums. Second year, you save $60,000. Maybe people in UK do that. This is a very unrealistic number for Canada, But anyway, let's go with that. Second year, you save $60,000, and you pay $10,000 in your mortgage payments. Now you look at your outstanding balance. It is $160,000. So 60,000 is less than that, so it is exempted from Khums. Year 3, you again save $60,000. You paid $10,000 in mortgage. Your outstanding balance is now $100,000. 60 is less than that. There is no Khums on it. Then you come to year 4, $40,000. You again just paid $10,000 towards the mortgage payments. Your saving of that year basically is equal to the outstanding balance. It's not more than that. So there's no Khums there. But when you come to the 5th year, you have $40,000 again as savings, and you had paid $10,000 in mortgage payments. This is where Khums comes back to you. You have to pay Khums on the $40,000 as well as the $10,000 mortgage payments that you have made in that year. These days, according to the old ruling, The mortgage payments that you do is a allowable expense. According to the new ruling, initially you are free, but when Khums comes in, it will apply on the savings as well as the mortgage payments if you have more continuing after that. Am I right? Mashayikh, you want to make any clarification there? Maybe later on. Let me try to explain a little bit more. This applies to your primary residence only and not your investment properties. If you buy a second one, no, there is no exemption there. This is only for your, it should be a house that is in use. If you abandon it, that exemption is gone. And remember that it should be within your means. And this is not only the mortgage issue for a house, the ruling is basically of deferring Khums would apply to any loan which can be considered for a present necessity of life for the person in the eyes of the urf and the society. Whether it is buying a house, buying a car, or a medical treatment, anything which is considered to be among the necessities of life. Let us look at the. Let me just go to the. We would like to save time here. Yeah. Oh. Just go to the last slide. The last slide.
What?
Okay, this one. I'm not sure it's coming out that clear or not there. But you have a slightly different scenario there, just to give you an idea of how it would work. This is a mortgage, the loan is $100,000. The saving is 55,000, and basically the total payment is 12,000, which includes the interest also. Because the saving is $55,000, which is less than the outstanding balance, there is no Khums in the first year. In the second year is the same situation, although the saving has gone down from 55,000 to 50,000. But because it is less than 80,000, which is the outstanding loan, there is no Khums in the second year. The third year, the outstanding balance goes to 70,000, and the saving goes up by 2,000, so it's 52,000. There is no Khums again because the savings is less than the outstanding balance. Then you come to year 4, 60,000 is the outstanding, and the saving is 58,000. Since it is less, this is where again Khums will not be applicable. Coming to year 5, 50,000 is the outstanding, and 55,000 is the saving. There basically Khums comes in now. Let me just look at the numbers again here. So you have that 10,000, which was the payment, and 5,000, which is the surplus there, and that's where Khums will start. And so from fifth year onwards, you will see the ratio would change and the Khums will increase. Red means you have to pay Khums, and yellow basically is that your savings are there, your payments are over, and you go back to the normal. And I think we'll end with that. Any clarification any one of you might want to make it on this issue of the okay.
Thank you very much, Maulana Sahib. I know there are a number of one burning questions everybody has. Maulana Sahib has asked the three scholars if they want to add in any more clarification or anything to make it a bit more easier and palatable for people to understand. So I'm just giving them a few minutes to go through and have a discussion on it. In effect, so we've got time until Salah. There's a whole lot of questions that have come in online. The idea is we will try to continue as much as you can till namaz time. I will try to alternate between the ladies, the gents. In the ladies' side, I understand there is a mic in this particular hall. There is also a mic in the ladies' overflow area in the main hall. In the gents' side, there is also a roving mic. Ilyas has got it. So we'll try to take one at a time. Can I just set some ground rules to make it easy, because we've got 40 minutes before Salah. If we keep it very specific to the issue around the new ruling, because for example I can already see on the online questions that we've got questions around businesses and does this include trade receivables and not receivables. We can be here all day to answer all of those questions, but we want to keep it slightly more focused and narrow on this. Those that we will not be able to answer, they will all be taken over by the Islamic Education Department. One thing we are doing is, inshallah, releasing a booklet and a guidance note on this specific issue. So we will make sure some of those questions will get answered. Sheikh Muhammad Ali, Sheikh Ali Abbas, is there any clarification you want to give just now? Yeah? Critically, I think one key element when you look at the spreadsheet, and I think you can remove the spreadsheet for now, is around knowing what your outstanding is at the end of the year, which is on your principal outstanding, not including the interest in it, right? And I'm sure there will be a question on it when Maulana can clarify on it. So the key bit is, when you get your mortgage statement, you've got to look at what is outstanding on your mortgage without the interest. That is a key element. It's not whatever's outstanding at the bottom of your right?
Just bring it more closer. See, the principal loan and the interest has been given separately. There was a reason behind it, but on a practical level, the loan is being exempted, as Ayatollah Sistani says, that if your saving is less than your outstanding loan, the principal amount, then your saving is exempted from Khums, and even the interest that you are forced to pay for that is exempted on a different basis. It is considered to be allowable expense. So the exemption is there also, but not under this, the principle of the new rule.
So we will take the first question from the ladies, and then I will move to the gents. I know they are he'll ask the people behind as well and the people in front. If I let you pick one, but we'll start with the ladies. So I think Safiya Bai has a mic in this room, and I think Rehana Bai has a mic in the room. So if we start from this room, if there's any question that you would ask, most of the questions will be asked by Maulana Sahib. If he wants, he will then refer to the other shuyukhs. So is there a question in the ladies, or do you want the gents to start?
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you very much for explaining this. I apologize, this is quite a specific question. If, for example, a lady has purchased a home before getting married and was living there, and then got married and then moved in with her husband, and that home of hers is now not being used for residential, and let's say it's on rent, is that not a residential home and now an investment property?
Yeah, and that will be considered as investment property. Yeah.
We'll take the first question from the gents.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Question is the surplus, the cash surplus? Say if, for instance, at the end of just before the end of the year, you had a cash surplus saving of 100,000 and you decided to buy an investment property and use 25,000 of that as a deposit, what is your Khums saving considered? Is it the 100,000 or less the deposit?
Any investment that you make, it should come from Muhammas, from the money in which Khums has already been paid. So that will be considered to be a total saving, and then you can do the investment.
We'll go to the ladies section. I'll go to the inside where Rehana Bai has got a mic if she has a question. So there's no question on that side. We have a question here on the ladies.
I have one question that's been passed to me, and the question is in relation to the loans that are permitted for the purposes of this rule. Would that also include student loans? And that's for the purposes of education.
Yeah. Well, if it's a loan in that sense, yes. For example, in Canada, we have something in our province of Ontario as OSEP. Many students for their higher university studies get the loan from the government. So that is a loan, and because it is a loan, it is not, Khums will not apply on it. But that's not necessarily based on this principle, because it is a loan amount is not liable for Khums anyway.
So just for clarification, so we're clear on this, Maulana Sahib, does that mean if I have a loan of $30,000, I'll just use dollars for ease for Maulana's issue, and I have a saving of $10,000, so my savings are lower than my outstanding loan, so therefore no Khums is payable. Is that correct?
If the loan is for what is considered to be the ma'una, necessities of life, then yes.
Okay. So we'll go to the gents. I got to find
Ilyas. The question I have, if I have a main residence, there's no Khums on that one. But if part of the residence are rent out and part of the residence I live, but I don't live the 12 months, I live part of the year here and part of the year somewhere else in another country, how do I pay Khums on the main property? This is my main property, but the part of the property is rented.
Partial renting.
It's becoming more complicated then. Yes.
We'll let Maulana...
Yeah, let me think about it first. I'll come back to that.
So we'll let Maulana make a note of some of these complex issues, and then he'll come back and deal with them. So this is where your main residential home is also rented out, or one or two rooms are rented out. What happens and how do you handle it? And also, you don't live in your main home for half the time or for some duration of the time because you are in another country. I'll go back to the ladies if there is any other questions before I come back to the gents. So in the gents, if you have a question, please hound Ilyas Govani, who's got the mic, as opposed to myself, because there's no point looking at me. I'm trying to just, so whoever will have the mic will be able to ask the question. Yes, please. If you can switch on the mic.
Can you hear me? Okay. When a couple are both working but account for savings as a household, does each of the couple have to manage their own khums, or do they pool together? For example, is the mortgage only on the man's name? Or if the mortgage is only on the man's name? So are couples' khums done separately or together?
I think looking at the lifestyle here in the West, everything comes in the same kitty, at least in most cases, I would say. And so then you handle that as one. You give homes collectively, not separately. If the mortgage is in the name of the husband only, and the wife is also contributing, religiously it is actually a gift that she is giving to the husband, and he has to realize and appreciate that. And then he is paying the mortgage. So at the end it's all one, but because he is responsible to maintain the family and not she. So technically it's a gift coming from her to him, but as far as the khums is concerned, I think they will just look at it as a wholesome expense.
So household saving and household income. There is one or two questions I just want to clear out. I know the answers, but I'll let Maulana confirm. One says, can I choose between the old ruling and the new ruling? I think the answer is no. You have to use the new ruling.
If somebody wants to pay khums, even though his exemption is there, bismillah.
But the general rule...
Welfare Federation can take it, no problem.
The general rule is once the new ruling is out, it is the ruling in effect, and it overrides the older ruling. The other question which I will let Maulana answer, although I know the answer, is somebody has asked, and these are some of the online ones. He says, well, last year I paid it, so now I have overpaid khums, can I get a rebate?
This ruling only applies from the time you came to know about it. It's not retroactive, no.
So it's not retrospective in that case, insofar as members of Hujjat and all those online listening is as of now. So there is never have been an overpayment for you to ask for a rebate. The question to the gent side?
Assalamu alaikum. It's a very important question, both in this particular existing scenario and in general. If the residence in which you are living is your only residence, the amount of loan outstanding, has it to do anything with the increase or decrease in the value of the property? And are you subjected to pay khums on a residence on which all the money which is invested in the house has been already paid, but in the meantime the value has increased, but you are still living in that house? Are you liable to pay khums on the increased value of the house or not?
No,
I think from my understanding, and I've checked with this Maulana, it's on the outstanding mortgage, outstanding loan, as opposed to the value of your property. You'll pay khums on the value of your property some other time, but on a day-to-day loan, it's on the outstanding loan.
No, the residential home, this is only on the mortgage that you have taken, and that's where the issue of exemption or khums comes in. If the value of the house goes up and you still are using it as your own residence, khums is not applicable on that until you sell it. Then you have to see whether you are buying another house within that your khums here, or you are sitting with that money. Then the profit is liable for khums.
We'll go back to the ladies. Ji Safia.
I have some questions which have been passed to me. One of them is this. When we acquired a home, it was within our financial means. Since then, our circumstances have changed with one member of the family losing their long-term job. We still live in the same house, but is now no longer within our means, and we are now in debt. We are trying to sell the property. What's the ruling in this scenario?
I think you will still be able to maintain that ruling until you are able to overcome it somehow, whether you sell the property or deal with it. Yeah.
We'll go back to the gents.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I just wanted to ask Mulana Sahib, how would you treat business loans compared to residential mortgages? Is the treatment similar?
No, business loans are not similar to, as far as this exemption is concerned. This is more about what is considered to be part of necessities of life and mauna as such.
Maulana Sahib, there is a question online that says, I have savings, but it is in an offset mortgage. So I have savings in my saving account for it so that my mortgage repayments are lower, but they're still savings, but my repayments are lower. So are that monies that are sitting in the saving account classified as savings, for which I have to pay khums on, or not?
You have a control on it. You can withdraw it whenever you want.
Under UK rules, yes, you generally have control over it.
Yeah, then it's saving.
So the question online was about offset, your money sitting in a saving account. Maulana's response is very clear that it will be classified as savings, for which khums is payable on it. We took the gents, so Safia Bhai, I'm assuming there is nothing coming from the other side? Or do you want me to check?
They're all being passed to me.
Oh, they've been passed to you, fair enough.
So this is not quite directed at the new ruling, but linked to what has been said within the slides. Somebody has asked if there is a health issue such as a heart or kidney or knee replacement due in future years and it requires savings in order to be conducted privately, could that be exemptable from khums?
Maulana is making a note of it, so he has got to give it consideration.
I can't say right away, but let me check. So it is a necessary medical procedure that they have to go through, maybe
potentially in the long run, but don't know when. Is that correct?
I believe so. If somebody knows that they have a potentially imminent surgery required, but they will have to pay for that privately and are therefore saving in order to get to that point, then is that money then exemptable from khums?
Let me just double check that, okay?
We'll come back to the gents.
Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to seek clarification in terms of the base on which khums is actually imposed, and that is that inheritance is exempt, you said, from tax. So if unexpected legacy was in the form of inheritance, would that be in what category would that fall?
That is not considered to be a normal inheritance. When we talk about inheritance, we are talking about the normal inheritance from your, parents or grandparents, or somebody whom you know and is close by in relationship. Yeah.
Safia Bhai, your next one.
I have a number of questions, but they're not directly linked to the new ruling.
Let's keep it to the new rulings, and then if you give it to us, we will then put it in the bank of questions that can be dealt with through Ask the Alim, that will then be answered. While Safia Bhai is going through it, if the next one on the gent side.
Assalamu alaikum. In the light of the both rulings, to make mortgages affordable, people tend to go for interest-only loans to make it affordable to actually get a foothold on the ladder of properties. So that loan never reduces until after 25 years. So am I guessing right? Then you wouldn't be liable until year 25?
It could be.
There is one question here. Maulana Sabi says, if I have never paid khums in the past, and after today I think I need to and come up to speed, do I use the new ruling or the old ruling?
No, you go by the old ruling. Yeah.
So we'll take one more question from the gents and then we'll go back to the ladies.
Thank you, Maulana. Talking about the inheritance, just mentioned in your speech as well now that there is no khums on inheritance. So if I've never paid khums on my savings or whatever, and then my children inherit, so it means, does it mean that they don't pay any khums on the inheritance they have received?
No, there is a ruling that if you know that the person that you are inheriting in his estate there are some debts to be paid, and one of the categories of the debts would be khums. Unless you know that the person didn't believe for whatever reason, according this is the opinion of Sayyid Sistani, didn't believe in the khums at all, then that's a different issue. Otherwise, you have to pay part of the debts that which has to be paid. Khums also is included there.
This is an interesting question. While I'm waiting for the Safiya Bhai to channel through the questions, he says, for the new ruling is that the residential house has to be that of basic need, or it has to meet your requirement. What if the house is bigger than what you need? How does khums work for that?
If it's a property which is beyond your means, then whatever is beyond your means as far as the payments that you are making, that is liable for khums.
I have a question from somebody on this side. If the annual surplus income from a second property, which does have a mortgage on it, is less than the mortgage on your own first residential property, is khums liable on this surplus income of that second property, notwithstanding the fact that it has a mortgage?
Because residential investment is mortgage, but there's surplus income. So is khums on the income? I was just checking with Maulana Sahib. It's khumsable on the income because the investment vehicle or the investment property is not classified as your principal home. So you have to take that income and put it in your savings number against what is outstanding on the mortgage of the principal home only, not your collective outstanding debt on mortgages, because you can't use the investment vehicle as an offset against your principal home.
Can I go back to this partial property which was rented?
Yep. So Maulana is going to respond to the partial property question, and then we'll take the next question from the gents.
So the scenario was that a person has a residential home where maybe a portion of it, a room or two, have been rented out, and he does not live there for the whole year, but he has another property in another city, let's say. Well, you can have two watans and you can have two primary residences, and it would apply in that way. So looking at it as a partial rental, I think that would still be classified as the primary residence of that person.
So it will be classified as primary residence. You take the income from the rental into your savings number, and calculate if you've got anything left at the end of the year for your calculation. There is another question broadly on it saying, if I have not paid khums on a specific element due to a misunderstanding, should I calculate and pay 20%, and is there some penalty? I'm assuming yes, you have to pay. Is there some penalty?
No, there's no penalty. No.
Ilyas, next one from the gent side.
Assalamu alaikum. If the loan was taken out for home improvements, and for some reason part of the home improvement was done, but some of them was pushed back, and now 1 year has passed, but the plan is still in pipeline because of the permission or whatever reason it was delayed, do I have to pay khums if the period has gone over a year?
Just to clarify the question, do you still have that income in with you?
The loan is still there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still outstanding. Nothing has been paid towards it.
Well, as far as the home improvement is concerned, if again it's within, because if you have a primary residence which is within your own means, after a few years, yes, maintenance and improvement is part of life. So if it is again, the improvements are also within the means of the person or according to the standard of living of that person, that also would be allowable. There wouldn't be a problem in that.
Online, I'm getting lots of questions about can Maulana slides be available, booklets, questions. Just so that we can reiterate, the Islamic Education Department of the World Federation is planning a booklet on the seminar itself, where all the information, all the slides, worked example, and lots of other information will be there. It will be released as soon as it's practicable, because we need to collate everything together. So yes, it will be available in a slightly different format soon, inshallah. Ladies, any more questions before? Ji.
This is a question from somebody. If I have paid Khums on my investment properties and my children inherit those properties, do they have to pay Khums when they use it as their investment?
When they inherit and let's say you have already paid the Khums, no, they don't have to pay Khums on it. And as inheritance, there is no Khums on it anyway.
And if they use it for investment, then?
That's fine. Then whatever profit they make
from them,
on that, Khums will come in, but not on the principal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take this one particular question because it's related to children, although not specifically to this. Are gifts received by children from non-parents subject to Khums while they are not baligh? Assuming that it's long-winded, but children receiving gifts and they're not baligh.
There are two views on this issue of children's income or gifts. People like the late Ayatollah Khoi had the condition that for Khums to become wajib, the owner has to be baligh. If he is not baligh, then Khums is not applicable. However, people like Ayatollah Sistani as well as late Imam Khomeini, they believe that the issue of Khums has nothing to do with the age or bulugh of the owner. Once the property is there or the money is there and it is a saving, then Khums will be wajib on the guardian to pay on behalf of the. So according to our Sistani, gifts are liable for Khums. So gifts given to the children which are not used and they are new and unused, then the guardian has to pay Khums on it.
I think that's very clear on it. I've got another one question. We're about 8:25 now, so we've got namaz at 8:40. Don't worry, somebody sent in an online question, is when will biryani be served? Inshallah, it will be served after namaz. And I'm sure Hujjat will not let us down, so it will be there, but that's on a lighter note. Maulana Sahib, there's this question saying, I have a student loan of £30,000, $30,000, it doesn't matter, but I have a saving of $40,000. Therefore, am I paying Khums only on the 10,000 that is left or the full 40,000?
And this was a loan for something which is considered to be...
Student loan is usually education loan to go to university, in most cases, or college, but higher education.
I think that would apply on that case also.
So Khums on 10,000?
Yes.
So based on that, if it is for necessity, then the Khums is only on the $10,000 pounds that is remaining after the loan. I think we took the question from the ladies. So gents, Ilyas.
Assalamu alaikum. Question here is, if I've bought a property with my initial mortgage payment, let's say for example £100,000, but after 3 years I remortgage after paying off my principal slowly, do I still have the exemption on the remortgaged amount as well?
remortgage of the same property?
Same primary property.
Yeah. And what would be the reason for remortgage? It all depends on the reason. Well, if it is for something which was part of necessary expenses, the need at that time, then that would be liable for it. But if it was, let's say, remortgaging for investment purpose, then Khums will apply on it.
I think the principle Maulana is trying to raise is that was it necessary and part of your necessary living that remortgage was done. If it was done, then fine. If not, then it is khumsable. We'll go back to the ladies. Gents, so Ilyas has got the mic. It just makes it easy for me. Ilyas?
Assalamu alaikum. Basically, my question is more towards a situation to do with business. And in this particular scenario, let's assume somebody has got roughly £500,000 as his investment, either in property, shares, or business stocks, whatever.
Sorry to cut you off. If it's business related, I'm sure Maulana can talk to you outside. Okay. Or the Islamic education can deal with it. I want to focus specifically around the mortgages and the new rules, because I have like 70 other questions but not mortgage related, so okay. We haven't asked them. So if it's mortgage related, I'm more than happy to take it, purely out of time. That's all. I'm not trying to cut you off. But business related is a little difficult, because then I'll have to go through the 80 other questions that people have asked.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm not trying to cut you off. I just want to keep the seminar focused on the mortgage related matters.
Okay, would that be possible after iftar?
I'm sure Maulana Sahib is here. Sheikh Muhammad Ismail is here. Sheikh Ali Abbas is here as well, so I'm sure you'll get time. If for any reason you are not able to meet them, if you contact Sheikh Muhammad Ali Ismail, he will take the scenario of you from the World Federation and he will try to get it resolved for you or get an answer for it as well.
Thank you, Ahsan.
Thank you. We'll take the next question from the gents. If you raise your hands, Ilyas is at the back.
Assalamu alaikum. On one of the slides it said about new savings. So, for example, year one you have a mortgage of £500,000 and you have a saving of £50,000. Then the next year you don't have another £50,000. You have the same original amount, but it wasn't quite clear on the slide whether the deficit goes from 450 to 400 or it stays at 450, because there's no new money. It's the same £50,000 you had at year one. Because if it's the same money that keeps on getting compounded after 10 years, even if you've had the same money, the exemption is then gone. Can you just please clarify that point? So,
just for clarity, the question is, it's the amount of savings, correct? Do you compound
so you got a mortgage of 500,000, for example. Yeah. You have £50,000 saving in year one.
Yeah.
In year two, you have no new savings.
So it's still at 50,
the same 50,000.
Yeah.
Is it then? Does your exemption go from 450 to 400, or does it stay at 450 because you have no new savings? It wasn't quite clear on one of the slides. It looked like it was compounded. So if you have the same 50,000, if that doesn't increase, it looks like every year your exemption goes from 500 to 450 to 400 to 350.
It stays the same. It doesn't compound. So what you have to look at is what's the saving. It doesn't. The 50 doesn't become 100 for compounding purpose. Is what was your saving. If you increase it, it's fine. If you decrease it, it's fine. It doesn't get compounded unless you have new savings. I've checked that with Maulana Sahib and the Shuyukhs as well, and that's the understanding. We'll take the next question.
Assalamu alaikum. I just want to know that year one, if your saving is 50 and another 50, but you say you take that money and invest somewhere, and put the income as your income in the every year, but in the fifth year, you are now coming to a level, now you have a crash that shares or all your investments have have disappeared and you have got a loss. Now, should you start again to accumulate, or the loan is still there and there?
No, the savings that you had, you keep that number there. Even if you have used it up or invested it somewhere else, but that number would still continue in that way.
It's investment related. Mortgage is only today. Mortgage is only. If it's investment, Maulana is here afterwards.
I think he has a point there. Let me just clarify that when we say that you had so many, you saved this much in year 1 and then each year 2, and there was nothing in year 3, and then again in year 4 you had a saving, it doesn't mean that that saving has to remain there all the way till year 5. No, the number will still be there in your books. Even if you use that saving for investment and lost it, or it's still there in the saving accounts. But for the purpose of counting there, that now you have reached to the outstanding balance, you will still keep that number in the calculation.
Maulana Sahib, there's this question saying a couple saved money for a property for the last 5 years to buy a property, but instead of buying the property, they used the funds to pay for rent and educational expenses. How does Khums apply to all those savings that they had made in the last 5 years?
There is no exemption that if it was part of the allowable expenses, then that's fine. If it was not, then there will be khums on it.
There's a question that talks about joint mortgage on one residential property and other properties as investments. Do I still have to pay khums as I have 1 or 2 investment properties? Yes, the exemption only applies to your principal home, not to investment properties. I will take one last question before I do a quick close, before we break for namaz, and then iftar and niyaz will be served. So we'll take the last question.
If someone hadn't paid their homes for past 10 years, and can they apply a new mortgage rule on last 8 or 9 years and then new rule on this year or not?
You go back, don't go back. The new ruling applies only now, from now onwards.
So the calculation from what Maulana says only applies for calculation from now onwards. So you'll have to work out your back khums on the old rules, and the new rules apply from your new khums year, as opposed to the old khums year from that perspective. I just want to take this opportunity before we break for Salah and Niyaz to thank both Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi, Sheikh Muhammad Al-Hilli, Sheikh Ali Abbas and Sheikh Muhammad Al-Ismail to have given us the time and energy to educate us on these new rulings. On behalf of each and every one of you, we would like to give our thanks and appreciation to all the shuyukhs, and can you please recite a loud salawat for all of them, please. I hope you found this useful. The Islamic education team are here, particularly in London, all the time. So if you have got any questions or queries, you can email it to them. The last few things that I wanted to say is that this was the first that we have done in a long time. We hope this was useful. If there's any feedback, please do send them on to us or the Islamic education team. I may not have been able to answer all the questions that have come in online and you may all have, for which I can only apologize. We will try to look at them all in the booklet. Where they are khums related, we will deal with them. At the end of all of this, we are going to break for namaz in 4 minutes. After namaz, niyaz will be served here for the gents and in the ladies for the ladies. Lastly, remember each and every one of us in the holy month of Ramadan that will start imminently. And without further ado, thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.